You are now listening to For All Nerds Show, a podcast about geek and pop culture from the perspective of people of color. For All Nerds is hosted by DJ Ben Amin and Tatiana Keene Jones. For All Nerds Show is a member of the Loudspeakers Network, where we always say rest in peace to our founder, Combat Jack.
For All Nerd Show is powered by our listeners. Everything we do, from our podcasts, live events, our website, are all independently funded. Please continue to support us through our Patreon page at patreon.com/forallnerds.
Welcome to the Fan Bros!
This is the emergency broadcasting system.
And what's up, y'all, and welcome to The Lack of Us, the blackest Last of Us podcast out here. Powered by For All Nerds, where our motto is inclusion is revolution. And as always, it's your boy, DJ Ben Hameen, in the captain's chair, a.k.a. Cordyceps Rex, a.k.a. Holy Shit, Joel, a.k.a. Clickerbait, a.k.a. Smoking on that gas of us, a.k.a. whoop, whoop, clicking, whoop, whoop, clicker head.
Joe, please, whatever.
And as you just heard, chiming in is my wonderful co-host,
Tatiana King, a.k.a. 4 Spores and 7 years ago, a.k.a. For Us by The Last of Us, a.k.a. Elliot Ness.
That one actually grew on me, and it's quite appropriate for this episode right here, for this fourth episode of the first season of The Last of Us. We are back to discuss it. We don't have a title for this episode?
Not quite yet, because we live in a pocket of the universe where everything is happening everywhere all at once. So, you know, we know the future, we know the past, we know the present. So what we don't know is the title of this episode, but that is okay, Ben. I mean, because I am curious now that we're not quite at the halfway point. There's only 9 episodes. And I say only because
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I say only because this has actually been phenomenal thus far. And I'm kind of like, damn, I wish there was more episodes. Like, they've been doing a really good job filling in a lot of data and information, but also heart and story and soul into these episodes. So I'm like at that point where I'm just like, damn, do I wish there was more? Like, do I wish there was a typical 13 because I want more, because I like how this is going? Or is this going to be a thing where I'm like, you know what, I'm probably going to be satisfied after 9, also knowing that there's going to be a season 2. That's another thing.
Well, they did say that the initial season would cover the whole first game. So we're seeing everything that happens in the first game right here. So I think they pretty much know, I don't think they're going to need more than 9. Okay. I think 9's a good solid number for these episodes have been, especially the first few were longer than an hour. I'm not sure about this latest one. It was about an hour, right?
It was about an hour.
Yeah. But the first 3 were well over an hour. So I think, they've had more than enough time, and they've been using it well. Like, I know Andor, I think, was 12, and that was so perfectly well done that, I don't think they needed more or less, but I think we're good here. So, yeah. Okay. Even though I didn't, this was not my favorite episode of the 4, but I was thinking, okay, if we were going to give it a title, Puns and Guns.
Puns and Guns. I like that. Very good. Because that's what this entire episode was all about, that. In more ways than one. And I mean, like, you're saying the fact that this wasn't your favorite out of the 4 episodes thus far.
Yes.
I still enjoyed it thoroughly.
I enjoyed it thoroughly. Yeah, I still enjoyed it thoroughly. I think my problem with it, or one of the, not problems, I don't want to say, is because of last week's. I thought last week was so tremendous, right?
So strong, so dramatic, so traumatic.
And it was really good to see a lot of people reacting to last week, because for the most part, I'd say about 90% people were just all over in love with it. I know one dude who got a lot of clicks, he had some article saying how it was whack and this and that, and I didn't even bother to click it because I just felt like it was clickbait, clicker-bait at that point. And
wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, and I get it, but I think people can have whatever emotional, this one that I was tweeting about, I think people can have whatever emotional reaction they want to any piece of content. But I think one issue is when people And I see this a lot. There's a lot of people saying, well, that's weak writing or this and that.
Mm-mm.
And it really is bothersome to me because technically you can't say that was weak writing.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, whether or not you have an emotional reaction to it
Yeah.
or what your emotional reaction to it is a whole nother story. But
Yeah.
technically last week and pretty much every episode so far, I think has been, extremely well written.
Completely objectively speaking, taking out the emotion, taking out personal biases, whatever you want to say, just from is this textbook great writing? Yes. This is how you fucking do it type of story that was episode 3. And to your point, Ben, regardless of how you personally feel about the things, you cannot deny the technical achievement of that. And when I say technical achievement, a lot of people think I'm talking about lighting and graphics and all that. No. I mean, from a technical writing perspective, that was seamless. They were able to hit on beats and story points and characterizations in such a tremendous speed and quality that people dream about. And the people who maybe do get the chance, they don't even get the chance to display that. So for them to be able to do that and do that in a way that resonated across so many lines of people and understanding, like, I just think regardless of how you, again, emotionally may feel about this, just from the technical writing perspective, you got to give it up to them.
And I mean, I don't know. There was also some people had the reaction because they Charles Pulliam had a good one where he felt that people needed to see more queer love stories, and especially tragic queer love stories. And I think to that point, I think people need to see more tragic love stories of any, whatever. I think that's just not displayed enough in TV, and that's why this was so not shocking, but so like, wow, because you don't see that type of thing in media. You don't see sad love stories, and we also don't see well-written love stories. And I think that's why this one resonated so much with people, is because it was so well done. I don't think that it resonated because it was cheesy, as some people attempted to say. I think it resonates because, look,
but listen,
people do things for clicks.
Well, I think here's the thing. So in some ways, I recognize that voice of people saying things like, "Oh, it's cheesy," and
I mean the strawberries.
And I want to be, no, but it wasn't. But what I'm saying is, it tends to come from two different points of thought. It comes from the point of thought of someone who's never experienced that type of love, because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you or feel what you've personally never experienced. I'll use myself as an example. I used to cannot stand or care. Let me not say stand, but not really care much about R&B love songs and things like that. You might, as a person who loves music, you may come in and be like,
you cold.
And I used to not be into it because
man, I grew up like screaming Jodeci and stuff.
Sure, but I mean deep. I don't mean like Joe, and maybe not. Let me not say R&B. Let me do this. Let me say ballads. Right. I used to not see the point of things like that.
I feel you.
Because I didn't have that understanding or experience or background. And then I'm sitting here listening to music and I would hear some ballad coming out. I'd be like, shut the fuck up. It's just corny. So, and it's like, I'm trying to be serious. He's laughing. But
it's so good. Keep going.
but that's what I mean, where I'm like, in that chain of thought, I understand someone thinking like that. Cause it's just like, well, I don't even understand why they're going in like this. It doesn't make sense to me in that perspective, right? But then on the other side of things, it's also just like, I also want to be careful of saying, oh, well, you need to experience that type of stuff before you say, you have an opinion otherwise. It's just like, there's so many different types of love to experience, right? There's so many different things people will or will not experience in their lifetime. And I don't want to fault nobody for that. But I also want people to learn to be open and also know that maybe you need more love in your life, regardless of what type of love. Perhaps you need to experience more love in general in your life for that thing, and when I say that thing, that type of illustration, as we saw in episode 3, to see that and receive it in a way that makes you not go, oh, this is corny. I think there's and just to summarize, it's either like you just haven't personally experienced it, or it's just like you're not willing to see how that can still relate to you in a different type of way. That's how I feel.
And we discussed that last week, that the episode and love, that type of love can be experienced in more than just the relationship,
Romantic love,
yeah. And people should experience that type of love in all forms and should be open to that type of love in all forms.
And corny doesn't mean bad necessarily, right?
No.
Like it depends. There's levels of it, right? Like there's niggas that are cornballs, and it was just like, look, bro, like you're just not cool, period. But there's also things that are corny, but in a loving way. Like you may have a partner where y'all do something real cute that's just between the two of you, and someone else in passing be like, y'all corny, man. Like you go, every morning, I boop her nose or something like that, right? Like if someone, just pass by like, yeah, man, y'all corny. But there's a reason, right? There's something about that is intrinsically for you too. And you mentioned it, Ben, in the last episode, use the term moments. That's a moment that's critical and builds upon the greater conversation and relationship between two people, between that type of relationship, whether romantic or familial or anything else. So I just think people just need to be more open and be more receptive to receiving love. That's my take.
Well said. Now, something else I wanted to point out before we get into this episode, right, is something I saw this on Twitter. People were talking about how because the pandemic in this show, because we're living through our own pandemic in our own real life, the pandemic in this show takes place in 2003. Frank and Bill gay marriage was not legalized in America at the time. So that's
I didn't even think about that. Why another level of that?
There's another level to it. But so now on that level, right? But that got me thinking, right? 2003, because someone else took that tweet and started talking about how the 2003 draft class of the NBA never existed, which is like LeBron and Carmelo and everyone. Like it's one of the, I think Dwayne Wade, it's one of the greatest draft classes ever, So it's like all these legends never existed.
Was Melo in that? Was Melo before?
Yeah, Melo. I was at I was DJing at a club. I think that shit was in DC or whatever, but Melo and all them came through. And I met Braun even. I was in LA at this ESPN party, and I met that man then. And I just remember, this is so wild, but I remember shaking his hands and being like, one, the nigga was sitting down, right? He was sitting down, and he was almost as fucking tall as me. And I'm standing up. And then he reaches out to shake my hand, and it was just like this nigga's hand just, enveloped my fucking hand. And I got some big hands, and I'm not a short man. And this dude was, I'm just like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, back to this. 2003.
You said, holy shit, Ron.
Holy shit, Ron. You like that, Brian? 50 Cent drops in the club in January and is now crushing Ja Rule out of existence when the cordyceps comes through. And that's it. But the one that would ruin me, I mean, I would probably be dead anyway, so I'm not going to be that stressed about it. But Star Wars, Attack of the Clones is the last Star Wars movie. There is no end to the prequels, and Attack of the Clones, one of the most clown shit Star Wars movies to me ever, ends everything.
You know what? This concept that you're fleshing out right now, just the idea, and technically it hasn't yet.
Beyonce?
But no, listen, right. Technically it hasn't yet, but the concept that human history or the progression of it has stopped in all shapes and forms. Art in all shapes and forms. We're talking about music, we're talking about visual art, we're talking about all types of art, written, all that.
Beyonce doesn't drop till June 23.
Music,
2003. The first Beyonce album does
like the
not
idea,
drop.
And there's two things here. It's thinking of that idea that the world stops in 2003, whatever that month was, March, May, whatever, April 2003, my nigga, right?
No Crazy in Love.
And granted, we're seeing this from the perspective of the watchers, right? People who know what happens after that time in 2003. But imagine knowing, or not even knowing, but imagine that life, that world, like, after that point in 2003, any progression has stopped in human history. So all the fucking nightgown tees. That's all niggas was wearing. That's all you fucking had. The fucking big ass buckles and shit. The fucking
No, it's
Chinese slippers. Like, I'm just thinking of fashion too. Like, I'm
Well,
just
it's- what
thinking
do you
of
call
like
it?
everything.
what's the terrible is that still that might be a little later, right? Von Dutch. That might be like 2004,
All
maybe.
that stuff, all that early 2000s stuff,
Yeah.
fucking Soulja Boy type stuff. That's it. That's the end.
That's it.
That's the end of art and culture as you know it. Goddamn Soulja Boy.
Soulja Boy. Oh man, I don't even want to look up with Soulja. But I think Soulja Boy was out by then. But no Beyonce. Like that's
Well, no Beyonce like as we know her.
no. She's Destiny's Child. The first album never comes
That's
out.
what I'm saying.
That's
we,
it.
We know her from Destiny Child. We don't
That's
know her as
it.
Beyonce, the solo artist.
Yes, that's it.
So,
Wow.
I felt like Beyonce had something. Not yet.
No, I just Googled it. June 2003. June 2020 of 2003.
That was a
solo album.
And when does
Dangerously
this
in Love.
cordyceps stuff happen?
Sometime in like March 2003. It's a rap, Beyonce.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yo.
Crazy in Love was out. That was it, fam.
That's brazy.
Brazy.
That's absolutely brazy. But like I said, this concept you just like my mind just did a explosion. I was just like, wait a minute, everything freaking stopped. And the reason why I also made the caveat in the beginning that technically it hasn't, like, there's still humans around, right? And
Yeah.
if people really do make it out of this, you know, they're going to be someone telling the stories of the 50 years or so where, you know, human civilization effectively stopped, right? If someone's going to tell the story about that, and then and there's art technically still happening now,
Yes.
right? And we also actually technically see art in this episode. It's very sad actually too seeing that. But go ahead, continue, Ben. I just wanted to continue with our review here.
Yeah, and that art actually pertains to this review because when I was watching it, I was thinking, because I'd already thought about this concept by the time I was watching this episode, and I was thinking that little boy was drawing Superman, Brandon Roof.
Damn.
Oh, no, he's not.
The people said that was the boy.
It don't come out till 2006.
Yeah, but I don't think he saw that one. Was
That
there?
nigga's
What
drawing
Superman was
Christopher
out?
Reeves?
No,
Nigga, reach your way back.
no, he was not drawing Christopher
mean, what
Reeves, my
else?
nigga.
What
He was
else?
drawing the comic book. I don't know. The comic books
guess so.
existed.
Yeah, the comic book.
When did Superman All Star come out? Damn, was that after 2003?
Oh, that hurts. Hell yeah, that was well after that. Well,
Shit.
yeah, never existed. Kiss
Well,
that
anyway, superheroes existed, so.
goodbye. Well, that might have been right around then, but either way, it's tight. Yeah, okay, so back to this episode.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Things that I really enjoyed about it was, I have to say this, even though I know damn well that Joel and Ellie are going to survive to pretty much at least the end of this first season,
I'm
the
a
way they
survivor.
can rack up the tension and make me think that they might not make it out of this episode is pretty well done.
And this goes back to what I was saying about, regardless of how you may feel personally, like objectively speaking, the fact that logic, as Benjamin keeps saying, logic will tell you these are the two niggas that's probably gonna make it and no one else will. But you're still sitting there like, God damn, is they gonna make it? You have to have good writing to be able to achieve that. You have
Good
to
acting, directing, everything.
Yes, everything comes along, but it's also like, what are they acting on? What's written, right?
Oh, it all starts with the writing, obviously.
So,
But I mean, a lot of people don't get that, but yeah, so it's not so obvious. But no, and not just that. Halfway through this episode, I'm also thinking, well, I know they ain't gonna die, but they could get fucked up, and that alone is pretty traumatic.
for 8 episodes, not 8 episodes, but for the remaining episodes, they just fucked up. Joel's already limping, my
Joe
guy.
already limping, so another limp ain't gonna be that much worse. So I feel you can take another bad one, but I was definitely a bit stressed.
Are you buying the fact that this version of Joel is 56 years old? Is he selling? Is he selling that the 56 aged?
I mean, he's selling it because
does he look too good to be 56?
No. I know. Look, someone just pointed out today that who is 60 years old looking and damn incredible. Oh, they were talking about Eddie Murphy is 61, while Bill Cosby. Someone said Bill Cosby's terribleness made his melanin flee his body.
Wow. It's Pedro Pascal. Pascal making you believe that this man is 56. I was like, damn, we just saw you at 30-something years old.
There's a few lines where Pedro's like, I'm 56. And I'm like, all right, I get it, dog.
It reminds me of RDC World. I'm 36.
Yeah,
I'm LeBron. I'm 36.
There was a few of those where I was like, all right, bro. You know, like when he was climbing the stairs and stuff like, you know, I'm 30.
I felt him on that.
I feel him.
They said 47 flights, my nigga. Like, nah.
Nigga, I ain't doing that shit right now.
Nah. I'm not doing that shit now as a young person.
Yeah,
No way.
Youngish, ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way, you know. But yeah, the way the tension wrapped up in this episode, and there's something else that I know people are gonna love, and my mileage varies on it, was how much this episode felt like the video game. And once again, even though I have not played the video game, I have enough cultural knowledge of it to know certain things. And there were things I was even waiting for. And they did it. Like in the shootout, once Joel shoots the first guy, the other dude is sad that his friend gets murdered. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not just some random dude. And then the other guy's rushing in talking about, you know, you're going to pay for what you did.
Fuck these motherfuckers.
Yeah. Up until he gets beat down. Pop. And then it's begging for his life, trying to tell you his name and shit, you know, trying to get familiar and friendly, you know, talking about his mama, you know, and all that stuff it's
that's
hard
more real.
Watch.
And it's hard. It was, because that's more real than anything. Like the negotiation, the negotiation of your life.
Oh my God. Ooh. Yeah,
but it's also just like as it was happening, I was like, "Nah, Joel, you got double tap.
Nah, you gotta finish that up.
He gotta go." Like, and that's so interesting also, because it's just like the I understand and vibe with the ruthlessness of this world and the ruthlessness of what Joel has to do, because it's just like, I can't let this nigga go. This nigga gotta go. Like. Mm-hmm. Oh, you know, all the begging and pleading. It's like, my nigga, but like 2 seconds ago, I would have been fucking toast for one reason or another, right? And it's the concepts of right and wrong and morally, you know, and then morality rather is all gray, right? Because there is no bad guy or good guy. It's just like, what side of the point of view are you on, right?
And there, once again, I got to go back to the writing, because there's so many points in the show where they could do some really cheesy lines, and they avoid it. There was something with the whole doctor that I was thinking about that they could have done that would have been really cheesy when I was watching it, but they avoided it. And then they avoided it right there when Joel is asked by Ellie, have you killed anyone innocent? And he could have turned to her and been like, no one's innocent, or something like that. You know, which would have been, and if done well, could have been a good line. But he doesn't even have to answer her for you, for the audience and everyone else to understand that, you know, yeah, I killed some people who might have been innocent, but at the same time, shorty, you know, everyone living in this world is...
And it's questionable. Like, you say innocent. Was the guy that came after them or the group that came after them innocent? Like, no. Depending on what side of the fence you're on. Like, remember, he said, well, I was on that side of things too. You know, we were just trying to survive. Right. Joel said we were just trying to survive. And when you use that as and again, this is also the breakdown of humanity, right? Like, so when you use that as your impetus, like, I'm just trying to survive, then you just be doing, and I don't want to say just be doing things, but you be doing things that you probably wouldn't do had that society actually still been in place, right? So, like, are these people, can they be considered innocent or not?
I mean, that's the thing. Joel says he was on the other side, right? So Joel's done the dirt. So when he's now on this side, and Ellie would then be asking, if Ellie was rolling with them other dudes, she'd be like, well, we just killed some innocent people. But is Joel innocent?
And also, I'm just trying to, you know, what is innocence, right? Like, I mean, besides the things that I think are, to me, black and white, like children, people who are defenseless, you know, who are clearly not trying to end your life then and there, but also even sometimes that, and not the children, but the other part, sometimes that has some gray areas to it too. I don't know.
Because Ellie is trying to end your life right then and there. And Ellie has already done dirt.
Apparently.
And this episode also brought up something that's one of my favorite bits of writing from another series entirely, The Wicked and Divine by Kieran Gillen. He has talked about this concept of when you fuck someone up, it fucks you up. And that is something that I don't think enough people appreciate, because like even us who we're sitting here talking about double tapping somebody, you know, that's not something you can just do easily.
Not in real life. Not in real life.
Not in real life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like sitting comfortably behind my screen, not having a care in the world, eating my popcorn, talking about, yeah, go kill that nigga, right? Because it doesn't affect me.
Murderer!
You know, when it would affect me, then, you know, as you say, like that's a different story. Like, I don't know if you and your life, have you ever accidentally hurt someone? And I don't, and this doesn't have to be
intentionally hurt people.
Okay, accidentally or intentionally, and it doesn't even have to be like something wild, like, you know, you cut their leg off or something like that. I'm just saying hurt. And how did it affect you?
Oh, it's one of them things where it scars you. Like, I can't forget those moments in my life. You know, like I've punched people. I've been in vicious fights. I've been in, you know, beat downs. I've seen people get beat down in front of me. I've, you know, been in, I mean, like a lot of people know I've been incarcerated. So I've seen a lot of wild shit, especially there. And, you know, I didn't have to really defend myself too much there. Like most of my fights just came in, you know, growing up. I was just fighting a lot growing up. And because of that, I've seen people, you know, take some bad ones. And it's something.
It's hard. And it's the fact that you're even talking about this years later, like it sticks with you. So that's why Joel was like, yo, that's not fair for you. Like, I mean, besides the fact that she's experienced all this, he was like, yo, the fact that you even had to do that, to like, that's not fair. You're just a kid. Like, he already knows that. I mean, he's scarred. Look, we said that from as soon as we saw him dumping that damn body into the pile of fire. We was like, oh, that man gone.
Gone. Did it with no problem. And to find out, like we said, this episode, and we already knew it, and it's something that Rodimus Prime talked about on our review of the first two episodes, is that Joel has lived a life of 20 plus years in this apocalyptic scenario. So he's done a lot of dirt. And there's going to be people he see who are going to be mad at him about some of the dirt he's done. And he's going to see the ills and repercussions of that, you know, when the time comes.
Yeah, man. You know, one of the things that I wanted to make mention of that I've saw a lot on Twitter when people were giving their, like, particularly people who play the game, were giving their critiques. I saw too much of people saying things like, oh, they should have did this that was in the game. Oh, I understand why they changed it. But, like, I hope that I'm mad that they didn't do XYZ. I'm like, wait a minute. Y'all have to give shit a chance first. Because, and the specific example is someone had said, like, about the whole Bill and Frank episode, they were like, oh, I wish they did it more like the game, because especially the part when Ellie found Bill's porn stash and da-da-da-da-da. And like, they was like really upset about it. And I'm just like, okay, if you fucking waited 1 week, you would have fucking saw, or less than a week at that point, you would have saw that they fucking did it in the show. Like, that's what we just saw in this. She finds the porn, right? And it makes a whole joke about it, and that's the end of that. My thing is, I don't like when people like just draw those conclusions so fast. I understand it's an adaptation of a very much loved property, but you've already seen what they've done within 2 episodes. Why are you not giving them the chance to keep going? Why are you not giving them the chance to, and honestly, I don't know what that expectation is, that everything has to be shot for shot, word for word, bar for bar. It does not. And then even still that it doesn't, they're doing it. They've literally, as everything has been told by people who are religiously on this, know The Last of Us. I said, yo, they're fucking doing everything. They're doing everything in some way, shape, or form. They fucking did exactly the thing you were complaining about 5 days ago. Mm-hmm. Because you didn't give it a chance. And it's just like, it's just aggravating. But
you have to know that, though. And that's the problem. I feel like, take for instance something like Lovecraft Country, right? We both read the book. We talked to Matt
inside,
Ruff
outside, up and down,
well before the series ever came out. And then when the series came out, it was pretty much completely different. And I'm now reading the sequel. I've actually finished the sequel to Lovecraft Country, the book. And because of having seen the show, when I'm reading the sequel, things are so wildly different that I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, this person's alive? Wait, who is this? And it took me a while to get back into the book world. And then when I was back in the book world, once I finished it, I was like, oh, that was great. I can't wait to see more from this book world. But it's completely different, and there's no problem there.
Like, I want people to kind of view this as the multiverse. Like,
Yes.
there's the gaming side of The Last of Us, and there's the live action side of The Last of Us. And while there may be similarities, these are not the same people, right? Technically, right?
No.
Or they could be, but there's things that are happening a little slightly bit different, just a little tiny bit of difference, right? But to me, even with that difference, it's based on everything I'm hearing and reading, it's still true to the source material.
Very
It's
true.
not such a vast departure that it's like they don't give a fuck about us as fans who knew everything about The Last of Us. Like, no, actually, they're doing the best goddamn video game adaptation probably ever that I've known.
And now, in this episode, some things that do get introduced that I think are going to be very interesting coming along. I think, next week is definitely going to be a doozy of an episode.
I already know I'm going to
Yeah.
be in trouble on that one.
We're all going to be in trouble. Let's talk about Kathleen first, though.
Okay, wait. Are we done talking about the stuff we like? Because I didn't really get through mine.
I guess we both on the same page as Kathleen did.
Yeah. Hold on.
Wait, okay. Was there anything else you liked?
Yeah, put a pin in Kathleen real quick, okay? I got news for that chick.
That
goddamn
ass.
lady. Just
Yeah,
quick, the
silly
things that
ass.
the things that really fucked with episode 4 is like the development that we're seeing of Ellie's relationship with Joel. That idea of learning to trust. Rodimus did a very, very good job in expressing how this is going to work, potentially work and grow. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I need you guys to go listen back to our first episode of the Lack of Us podcast, where we had Rodimus Prime is his handle, but we have Rod from the Black Guy Who's Tips on. He's, again, another religious, knows everything about The Last of Us, and he gave his 2 cents. This development that we're seeing, like, Joel is still staying cash shit, like referring to her as cargo, but you see that she's chipping away at him a little bit. Like, we said before, oh, that man gone. He ain't got, he ain't no, that heart is gone. He, icebox where his heart used to be. But you see that Ellie is chipping away at that icebox with the whole pun book. And you saw him fucking laugh. I think this is the first time we've seen him laugh since the days of his daughter, right? I don't recall seeing this nigga laugh or smirk or even look amused in any way, shape, or form since, we were introduced to him. And we were introduced to him in 2003 and then 20 years later. So in them 20 goddamn years, I don't think this nigga fucking smirked once. So to see that, like, oh, that's so fucking stupid in terms of the puns, but then laugh and like have some level of positive enjoyment with Ellie, someone who he's still like not 100, like he's learning to trust, but he's doing it off of responsibility. But we're seeing that it's going to be deeper very soon.
Also liked how they wove in Tommy's origin story in the conversation between Joel and Ellie. I thought that was very cool how they, told us what had happened to Tommy over the last 20 years and why he wasn't around now and why Joel had to go and get him out of where he was at. I thought that was well done.
Yeah.
I also really like the Hank Williams use of the Hank Williams music. The song that was playing is actually a song called Alone and Forsaken. And one line that I think is just really ill, and it is alone and forsaken by fate and by man. Because that's kind of where they're both at right now. Like, fate has handed them a raw deal, and people are handing them a raw deal. They are basically alone and forsaken by both of them. So, yeah, I really like the use of the music so far in this show. All right. Anything else?
Yeah. I just want to put a note that Ellie, she got a stick. She finally,
got the blicky.
Got the blicky, yeah. she got her gun. Ellie got a gun, and just seeing her like literally come to grips with it, and then her whole stuff about that's not her first time hurting someone. I was like, what? What do you?
Expected.
Kind of, but I'm also just like, well, what are you talking about? I mean, and it's expected based off of her reaction. Remember when they left the zone, and she was all like, kind of like intrigued that he was beating the shit, like Joel was beating the shit out of the soldier. And I'm just like, wait a minute, what's going on with this little girl? Like, what has she seen and done? And so for her to confirm that, I'm like, is there, what else do we need to know? Clearly, there's a lot, but what else we need to know about her? But I just like that, we got to see that. I presume this is also like similar or the shot for shot from the game, but as they're traversing through the landscape of America, how ravaged and weird and strange it is. Like, they're going cross country. And for me, it was depressing as fuck because remember, she was like, oh, I want to see a tank. And he was like, oh, you'll see it. And then you kind of see like her eyes went from like excited curiosity of seeing shit that she's never only read about to, God damn, this is what it looks like out here. Like, you saw obviously the scores of burned and charred up cars, and then the army vehicles, and then things like fucking whole trains coming almost, falling down a ravine, half in the ravine, half off the train tracks, many feet high in the air. Like, the things we were seeing, like, remember, we saw planes coming down back in 2003. So the remains and the ruins, and they're the ruins at this point. To see that and then seeing, and it's just weird, at least in the cities, it's this weird eeriness. Like, it's depressing, but it's also kind of beautiful because nature is reclaiming that shit as well. So it's just like, it's kind of like when they show shit, like they digging up real ruins back in the day, and you're seeing like, oh, this is really cool. This is how they lived back then. But then it's also just like, nigga, this was only 20 years ago. and it's just like, that's how the world looks right now. Like, that's, it looks like there's nothing out there for me. And they talk about that, how Joel's so pessimistic about it. And she's like, well, if there's nothing out there, why would you even, if there's nothing to gain, why are you even moving forward? And he says family. So.
And I really liked the other line he was talking about when he's fueling the cars. He said, back then we could have gone anywhere. And she says, where'd you go? And he's like, not much anywhere, really. Nowhere.
Like when you have it, you don't use it, you don't appreciate it. And then the moment it's gone, you're like, God damn. So, and I think the last thing that I just wanted to point out that I really loved seeing was the two black boys. I don't know if they're brothers. I don't know if they just ended up together or what, but in the end, seeing that. And I did see a preview of them saying, hey, at least one of the brothers is deaf.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know anything else beyond that.
I do.
Oh. Don't do it. Because now I'm about to start crying. Don't. As soon as I saw the little bad boy, I was like, oh my God. And then I just was like, wait a minute, is this going to be bad?
This is when I start praying that they go away from the game. And I think pretty much every black male in existence who's played the game or knows anything about it is praying that they go away from the game as well. And we'll get to that in things that we didn't like because and I see in your things that you didn't like, who the fuck is Henry and why is he on site for Kathleen? And to answer your question, Henry is the older of the two black boys that we see at the end. Henry and Sam. Sam is his younger brother.
So I already was having heart palpitations. Like, I'm not going to like this bitch, Kathleen. And now you tell me I really ain't going to like her.
Oh, you're going to hate this bitch by the end of this. You going to, yeah. Before I get to Henry and Sam, though, since we're talking about hating on this bitch, let's talk about Kathleen and her goofy ass. All right. Kathleen has a doctor who birthed her and
who delivered her
and seems to be her community's only doctor. Who when one person gets injured and the doctor can't help this person, and because she's on site for Henry and Sam, and because she believes Henry and Sam did this person dirty and these other person dirty, she goes and murders the one person that she has who can help anyone else in her community who gets hurt.
Or help her. Fuck anybody else. If you're just going to be selfish, what about just you, bitch? Like, that's your personal doctorate, in more ways than one, right? Like, I don't know. Like,
how did she get this far in life is my question.
That's a great question. How did you, because clearly you know HBIC, and how did you get there if you're making emotional decisions like this, and maybe she has it, maybe
dude did look at her kind of crazy. Her second in command was trying to start. He was definitely questioning her several times during this episode.
because remember we're getting put into the story in medias res, right in the middle.
Yeah.
So we don't know what had been going on and what built her up to get to that point of just doing shit off of emotion. It's great, makes great TV, sure. I highly discourage people moving in life in that way, because you do stupid fucking shit that bites you in the ass typically right away. Why would you kill? As we know, the only doctor. Maybe there's more. We don't know.
No. That man said, "I'm your doctor." She said, "What if I had the doctor? Like, there's only one doctor," and they went and capped this fool
because she's mad, and not just that she went and capped because she's mad.
Yeah,
and make an assumption, and maybe the doctor was protecting the kid, but as far as I see, these are kids. You saying Sam and Henry?
Yeah,
are these not children?
Older. No, well, Henry's old enough to put in work. Sam,
and listen, when you say old enough, 18, or is he 20-something years old?
He might be 20. He might be 18, 19. I'm not sure how they put him on the age.
He's a youth. He's a youth.
I mean, that's work age right there. Look.
Work or not, you're still a youth.
Yeah, but that could be bad.
I could see why. Sure, but I can see why the doctor was like, and what I mean, and the only reason why I keep pushing that thought is because I can see why the doctor was like, if he did know the information, he was like, nah, like they still youth them. Like, yeah. I'm not, they still got life ahead of them potentially, maybe, I don't know. Like, it's like it was some old ass nigga that was just causing havoc across the way. You would have gave that nigga up a long time ago. Like, he lived long enough. It was that nigga Charles over there. Like, come on.
So if it was Joel, he would have given him up?
Probably. Like, let's be fucking real. And a lot of people don't even like Joe, so that's another story. But
so you think that's why the doctor got capped, because he was trying to protect some kids, basically?
That's what Kathleen believes, because Kathleen was like, you know where the fuck this nigga is, and all this other stuff, and whether or not the doctor's telling the truth or not doesn't matter. Like, that's what she believed.
Well, yeah, okay, so we are both the same mind that Kathleen is a goofball at this point in her career, because that was some of the most...
I don't know shit about, and again, just a disclaimer to everybody listening: never play the game, so I don't know who this woman is.
I'm not even sure if Kathleen is in the game.
If she's built off of somebody that is in the game, I don't fucking know.
Because I knew that I'd heard things about Henry and Sam, so I went to Wikipedia and read up what is on, because I just needed to know.
Mistake.
It's tight. It's tight in the game. That's all I'll say. It's tight, but they're in a completely different place in the country at this point, but I think because in the game they're more milking around like the East Coast, and in the show they're going west right now. So.
They're going west. I don't think they say he was in Missouri.
Kansas City,
like
Kansas City, Missouri,
yeah.
Yep. So, now who the people are is another question. I love how Joel just calls them people, which is hilarious, because he's just like,
people.
He's like, don't matter, it's just people. People are evil. But on one of their trucks, they did have "We the People," so they seem.
I saw that.
From what I can see, is that they're the people who probably put Fedra out in that community.
I agree.
And took over and was like, nah, none of that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But why they have such a hard on for Henry and Sam is a big question that I hope is answered, because from my research, it's slightly different in the game. I don't know. It was just.
I mean, in the show, apparently it has something to do with Kathleen's brother.
Yep.
Because she had mentioned that, like, she was like, the doctor asking the doctor, did you give up her brother? Then she's saying Henry gave up the brother. I don't, right, Fedra, I assume killed, but Fedra did that shit to your bro. So why are you having a hard one about that? I don't know. And sure, it will probably be revealed next week, but I'm also just like, what? Like, because especially like was it recent? I don't know. It just seems like they been took over the We the People. They've been took over.
How long could they have taken over? Because other Fedra's going to come through and be like, "Yo, what's good with Kansas?" They couldn't have been that long.
That's the question then.
Yeah.
Are you sure that it hasn't been that long? It hasn't been that long, and that's why Fedra, the second batch of Fedra, is not there right now.
Them bodies were still burning, so it could not have been that long.
It was like fresh burning.
Yeah, it's still burning.
Freshly
like when they drove by them bodies, they were still cooking. There was smoke coming off them.
Okay.
So they recently done some major dirt. Yeah. Because that's why she was like, "Where's Fedra at?" And Fedra would definitely, they, I'm sure, are communicating throughout these colonies.
What does Fedra stand for?
That's a good
Federal. Question. I'm gonna look that up while we still talk. But
yeah, because I have no clue. some garbage ass shit, obviously. Something else we didn't. I'm not sure.
Oh, the Federal Disaster Response Agency.
So did they just take over? Is there no United States of America anymore?
It's like
Is it just
FEMA and the military put together.
Yeah, it just took over everything.
Incompetence. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Incompetence and fascism, never a good thing. Something else I'm not sure if we've mentioned on this show yet, that the actress Bella Ramsey playing Ellie is Lady Mormont from Game of Thrones.
Yo, I knew her face was fucking familiar. Oh my God, I love her. I loved her as Lady. That is.
Yeah.
Because she has a very distinctive shaped face. And
yes.
I always, every episode I look at her because she's an interesting person to look at. I did not put that together. But now when I'm looking at her with the sneers she makes, I'm matching it now to Lady Mormont.
It took me a second too, but
oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yo, has no one said? I feel like no one mentioned them. If they have, I haven't seen it. No one really was.
Someone mentioned it on our YouTube channel, and people have brought it up, I'm sure, on Twitter. But...
I mean, they've mentioned it in now. It makes sense. They've mentioned it in interviews because, like, she was asking our friend. Why am I blanking on his name right now? She was asking our friend, the Mandalorian, Pedro Pascal. She was asking him, what was his favorite like article of clothing, Game of Thrones, and I'm like, God damn it, these Game of Thrones people are all over this shit.
All over this, right?
Wow. And speaking of Game of Thrones, this is kind of like sidebar. Is the intro supposed to be like the Game of Thrones intro? It's literally like a fungi version of like all the little buildings and shit that come up out of the ground when you watch Game of Thrones. Do you notice that? As the first episode, I was like, oh, okay, we doing this.
I feel like everybody is either doing Game of Thrones intros or Daredevil intros. Daredevil from Netflix. Those are the two intros that are done just religiously throughout TV these days. Everybody, go back and watch the Daredevil intro, and you'll see it on every other intro. I mean, even The Last of Us is a bit of Daredevil in it too, but Daredevil intro, whoever did their intro,
The Last of Us is Walking Dead mixed with Game of Thrones. The intro mixed with you say Daredevil, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, before we wrap this up, we do have to talk a little bit about Henry and Sam, and also I want to talk about whatever the fuck is in that building.
What the fuck is that sinkhole? Like, what is the pits of hell? Is that like
a big ass giant?
Is it a giant like pod? Like, because it's apparent that they knew what it was.
They know
Kathleen and her first in command. But
and
to me, it was a little bit more than just something. Like, they knew what it was the precursor to. Like, they've seen something like this before. And what is it? Like a spore pod that's about to pop or something?
Now,
like, what is that?
And are Ellie and Joel in that building?
I was asking myself the same question.
I think they are because
are they up top in that building?
Yes, because I think they are because at one point, and I thought this was going to come up in this episode, but I'm sure it will in the next one. When right before they walk into the room where they bed down for the night, at least when I was watching it, I saw vines on the wall.
Well, there's vines on every goddamn wall, but
when the vines is out, you know what's coming next. And with that shit under the floor, this could be a real Die Hard type episode. And that's when is that whole building going down. It's like,
right.
But I don't know. Now, all right, I'm not, like I said, I've not played the game. I do know things that happen in the game. Henry and Sam are, like we say, this is the lack of us. And
my little heart can't take it. Please,
I'm just hoping that things go differently because, and like I say, I think every black person out here is hoping things go differently because they have quite a tragic story in the game.
Of course.
I mean, it's horrifically tragic. And
horrifically, not just tragic, but horrifically
tragic. Thanks, I would say, yeah. And then we were talking about the Superman drawings. And then even when you see Sam, because I think Sam is the younger one who puts his
he has he like drew like a mask on his face.
Yes,
like marker or something.
Like they're Supermen, like they're superheroes, and that's what this little boy believes him and his brother are superheroes, and we talk about the capacity of the youth to do violence, and I
Yeah.
think that is going to be explored. It's definitely explored in the game with Henry, Sam, and Ellie throughout the game, and I think we're going to see that next week, and it's, like I say, horrifically tragic.
I
I don't think any of us are.
I
Yeah.
said I was like, we always talk about, especially these. I mean, it started for us. It started in Texas, but we see like these areas where we're like, where are all the black people? And then when they pop on screen, I get excited, like, okay, great. And then you're telling me this shit. I mean,
And that's one of the gifts and the curses, right, of inclusion. We say our motto is inclusion is revolution. And something we've also talked about is that means that black characters should be able to be on the same level as white characters. Where just because we see a black character does not mean that they should be invulnerable. Especially in a world such as The Last of Us, where we know, like I said to you before,
you ain't the last
pretty
of
much
us.
by the end of it, it's gonna be Ellie and Joel. It ain't the
Yeah.
last of a lot of us, it's the
Yeah.
last of us. And so we know that bad things are going to happen to pretty much everyone they encounter at some point.
Yeah.
So it's going to be equal opportunity for L's. So just because that
Equal opportunity else.
so just because these black people might be taking an L next week, I already know the internet's going to go crazy if they do. But like we said, in the game, it's a very tragic story already for them. So, it's that catch-22, right? Because they know they're going to piss off the people who don't go by the game. I don't care about that. I think they should draw whatever they want, tell a great story along the way, respect the game, of course, but the game can be the game and this to be this. And then if they do go that route, they're going to piss off every black person who wants to see representation. You can't win.
I think that just leads to that last question, like, about what to expect. Like they did make the announcement last week that season 2 is happening. This has been an exceptional success for them thus far. So they was immediately green light that shit. My question was, what's happening season 2? Obviously part 2 of the game potentially, but like, do you see them going in different ways with this?
I don't think so. No. I think they're going to stick pretty closely to the story the game tells. Like I say, I don't know. I know that part 1 ends with some really wild shit where a lot of people, if they don't know, I know what happens pretty much at the end of part 1.
Don't need to tell me.
Yeah, I'm not telling you. And I don't know exactly how it goes down either. I just know that there's a very controversial moment at the end of 1 that people are upset about. But it leads into 2, and so it's like it has to happen that way, pretty
Gotcha.
much, I think.
Gotcha.
I think, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think, I don't know. But I know it's something that people are really pissed about, and I kind of know about that, but I don't know enough to I couldn't even tell you if you wanted, because I'm like, and you'd be like, what? That ain't what, because I honestly don't know. Like, I know way more about what happens with Sam and Henry than I know about what happens at the end of this game, or the first one. So I don't think they're going to change it too much. Even like my prediction before where I was talking about how the Cordyceps win in the end. I don't think they win at the end of The Last of Us 2. But I don't think so. I've never heard him, but people would be talking about this game way differently, I think, if it got that tragic at the end of it. So
Damn.
yeah, I don't think so. Maybe no one's just spoiled that for me yet. Like, oh no, dog, this shit ends with everybody dying. Like, you lose in the end, actually. Like, wow.
That's some Willy Wonka shit. Good day, sir. You lose.
And I killed all those fucking kids, right? No, so I don't know what's. Side note: I read both of those books as children. People don't know there's a sequel actually to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It's Charlie and the Glass Elevator. I read both of those.
Yeah, I heard
I read both of the books as children. I loved them so much, but I never saw that movie until I was a grown ass man. So when I saw it, I was like, first of all, it's one of the greatest movies ever made. Yeah, it's amazing. Gene Wilder is destroying it. But I'm like, this nigga's sitting here murdering these fucking kids. Like,
in front of their parents, G. In front of their parents.
With no problem.
Or
with
caregiver, whatever these people are today.
Yeah, murdering them.
And the parents was looking like, Oh, fucking well. This goes, Veruca Salt.
Greed and resistance. Boy, that movie is like deep. That movie gets into it all.
Right.
But that's a whole other podcast right there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen. I do not think the cordyceps are gonna win, but who knows? And like I said, when I was doing my research about Henry and Sam, there wasn't no goddamn sinkhole in that research, so I don't know what that shit is either. I'm like, wait a minute.
And
what
that's
is
the
this
beauty
thing?
of an adaptation, because it can take a turn and a twist that you're not expecting and still weave in true elements of the story you're used to, and come up with something even more beautiful, which is where I see that they did with the other episode, Bill and Frank. So this just goes back to my earlier point of give it a chance. Like, if they've shown you that they are respectful to this source, that they're giving you what you want, but also delivering something else on top of that, give it a chance before you yell out, and it's also before you yell out stuff that, it's just like a little slight thing that you may have really loved, but it's also like, does this feed into the greater story, right? And even the stuff like it may not be that important that like maybe personally is important to you, but maybe that's not that important to the greater story. And even that notwithstanding, they're still putting it in there. And they're still somehow fitting it in there. And I'm just like, if you just waited.
Like
that was there.
The whole magazine thing was to let people know that Bill and Frank were gay. That's the only way they could know, because by the time you meet them, in the game, they're already gone. So you don't get to see them in this relationship. So why would they need that other than just to appease the video game people to put that in? Because they've already shown you this whole story.
And that's just the only kind of gift and curse mentality I feel about when adaptations happen. Because it's like, and sometimes even, I may be guilty that I'm like, oh, I hope that they do X, Y, Z because that was really critical to me. Mm-hmm. But is that really critical to the overall story they're trying to display in this adaptation? You understand?
No, because to me that moment felt kind of forced in this week. Because I was like, oh, okay. Because I knew that moment came from the game. So when it happened, I was like, oh, okay, all right, they're doing the game thing.
Right.
But I've already seen this beautiful
But it appeased
story.
somebody. And my thing is, the same person who was fucking crying about it is like, okay, well, here you go.
And then will they be appeased? But that goes back to the whole thing that audiences don't know exactly what they want. And at the same time, I'll always say this, your emotional reaction to something like, let's take, for instance, Alpha Flight. It's a comic book I love as a kid. And the death of Guardian, it's like a 40-year-old story. So sorry for spoilers. Guardian dies. And it's it is the traumatic death of a character. We used to ask that on For All Nerds. That's the one for me. But if they ever did an Alpha Flight movie or series, which I'm sure Marvel will do at one point, I don't really need to see Guardian buy it like that, because I read it as a kid and it will never match up. I was thinking about that issue the other day, fam, like of me turning those pages as a kid and being like, oh, fuck, at the end of it, and just the hurt I felt and just everything. It'll never be matched because it's already happened.
And if they adapt it, and they do it well, they'll hurt you a different way.
Yeah, and they should, because take for instance something like The Walking Dead when they killed Glenn. Like when they killed Glenn in the comic, I wanted to stop reading the goddamn comic. I was so disgusted. Now when they killed him in the show, the only way that they could
the plague kill when he got the plot armor?
I'm talking when they finally. The play kill was so
it was so ridiculous,
and that was so ridiculous because when they finally killed him, I didn't care. And then because one, I'd already been shocked so much in the comic, I knew it was coming. And the way they tried to flip it up was had them kill the redhead dude at the same time. So it's like it was just gratuitous at that point. It was like, this is gross. I don't need to see two men get their head bashed in. The one was horrible enough, and I like the redhead dude. So it's like because they wanted to shock people who read the comic already, they killed two people. But that was just silly. Instead of just going ahead and just killing Glenn or doing something completely different and just killing the redhead dude and letting Glenn live. And changing it up from the comic.
So the whole point of this conversation right now is like, is this whole kind of fan service. Not so much fan service that I don't want to confuse the anime folks, but like just doing it because the fan expects it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, and isn't that boring? Like you want to see it bar for bar like that?
I never understood that, fam. I see people talk about that now with like Secret Wars coming up, And that's so funny too. It's so funny right now when I look on Twitter because Marvel has had two very big and two very different Secret Wars series that I think people think that they're going to do one or the other. And it's so funny to me because I'm like, they might do none of this stuff. It just might be Secret Wars in name only. And then they do something else that's completely different. And if it's dope, that's all that matters to me. And if they take little bits and pieces from it, hey, that's even great too. You know, I'd love to see Doctor Doom well, Claw is dead, right? He can't even do that. But at one point in the first Secret Wars, Doctor Doom slices up Claw because Claw is made of sound in the comics, slices him up and uses his refracted slices to steal power from the Beyonder somehow. Or from Galactus. One or the other. Yeah, it was
you I was just like, nigga, what?
Yeah, it's some ridiculous comic book shit. You know what I mean?
Like 2 sentences ago, I'm like, what is he talking about?
And anyone who's read it would be like, oh, that was so awesome. But, you know, it's some ridiculous comic book shit that probably only works in the comics.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. My thing is, look, if they show you that they're capable, give them a chance. That's all I say. Like, I could see, like, if the shit was just horrible, then, you know, and you want to just hate watch and harp on it, then, you know, be my guest. But,
I straight up turned off a show. I'm not going to name it. I straight up turned off a show last week in the middle of an episode. At that point, I'd watched a season and I guess about a half of that shit. And I turned it off in the middle of the episode. I was like, I'm never watching this show again. Ever.
Right. But you know what show I will watch again?
What's that?
The Last of Us, especially episode 5, because I think we talked everything we could about episode 4. Was there any other last points you wanted to make?
I'm not ready for episode 5.
Please, I'm already like, please.
Like, that's the worst part. I read the shit and I still, because I know that they're not gonna do it exactly. I know because I trust these people to be smart, but I know they're gonna break my heart some way or another. Because
they broke my fucking heart already. Episode 3, they broke my heart.
It
period.
Ain't the last of a lot of us. That's the point. Like, you know, we ain't go. You know, it ain't gonna be what Bill and Frank ain't gonna be around. You know, in the end, it's gonna be Ellie and Joel, if that. So anyone we meet along the way, they either are gonna be like left behind or they're gonna be left behind. You know what I mean?
This has been the Lack of Us podcast, hosted by your very, very special hosts, DJ Ben-Ami and Tatiana King. Thank you so much for listening. The Lack of Us is powered by For All Nerds, where we talk about everything in geek and pop culture from the perspective of people of color. You can find us all over the interwebs at For All Nerds. You can also look for All Nerds on your favorite podcast platform. We're on every platform. There is no excuse. Just follow us on all of them, actually. We'd appreciate the numbers. Make sure you tell your friends, your family, everyone that you care about, everyone you want to talk to about The Last of Us. You just want to get different perspectives. Listen and watch us. Listen to the podcast. Watch us on YouTube. We have youtube.com/forallnerdstv, or if you just type in For All Nerds YouTube, we are going to pop up that way. You can also follow Ben-Hameen and myself personally. I'm at Tatiana King. He's at DJ Ben-Hameen. You can also watch when we live stream. I almost said live tweet, but whatever. Live stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/forallnerds. Ben-Hameen is thinking about something. I wonder what he's thinking about.
I'm not sure if the late night Twitch stream is kind of rough right now.
It's kind of rough. Well, that's what I mean in general when we are live streaming.
Yeah,
even if it's not about The Last of Us, Ben-Hameen DJs. He's a DJ. That's not just a name. That's actually a profession as well. So he DJs on there, gaming. We do all sorts of shit, but just make sure you're following us on there. Mm-hmm. And all platforms, make sure you're following. You literally click the follow button or the like or whatever the action there is. If there's a subscribe button and you have the means, please subscribe, especially with stuff like Twitch. If you have Amazon Prime, you get a free Twitch subscription every month. You can literally just re-up every month and, you know, subscribe to whomever you want, but we really appreciate you subscribe to us. And also, speaking of helping us in multiple ways, head up our Patreon, patreon.com/forallnerds, where every tier is a great tier because you get special privileges as part of the fan fam. You get access and information before most or a lot of people. You also get exclusive maybe interviews or episodes that we do not release publicly sometimes. Sometimes only you guys get that stuff. So Just make sure you are tuned into that. I'm trying to think, man. We have so much other stuff that we're building on, so much things that we're doing. Anything else that I may have missed, Ben Hamid?
You mentioned our merch site, forallnerds.com.
I didn't. Please talk about that.
Okay, well, we have our merch site, forallnerds.com, and in fact, we are relaunching it, even though we just launched it very recently. We're going to relaunch it sometime.
Relaunch?
Yeah, during Black History Month. We got a whole new look coming to forallnerds.com, plus our latest batch of designs. One of which will be this T'Challa and Friends in an exclusive, very limited edition gold.
Ooh,
gold. I like
Is that the Black History Month exclusive?
That is the Black History Month exclusive. Ben Amin's birthday month exclusive. That's right. Yeah, February 27th is coming up. Pisces season, baby.
Plug it.
Gotta plug it. You know what I mean? We just in it. It's, because and I say this all the time. Pisces season doesn't get the respect. I feel like it goes by so quickly. So this year I'm going in on Pisces season. So all my Pisces out there, represent. We doing it big.
Oh, God.
For all nerds. Look, come on, man. Miss
I
announcing her.
I have 3 people. My 2 brothers and my dad are Pisces. Please.
Oh, okay.
Please.
Okay. Let's go, baby. I just want to put word out on the street that we back up.
I know it's not Pisces season yet, but happy birthday to my other brother, Michael. I love you. His birthday.
Happy birthday, Aquarius season. I love y'all too. Great people right there. So, yeah, forallnerds.com. Right now, go check out the merch. Some of those designs will be gone very soon, so make sure you get your hands on them. And we got some fire new joints coming very soon. Hopefully, right around the time you hear this, they might be up. Yeah, it might be up by then. So, check that out. And then make sure you come back next week for episode 5 of The Lack of Us, reviewing episode 5 of The Last of Us. Thank you very much. You like that?
Very good. Isn't that? That's like episode 4 reviewing episode 5.
Oh, you're right.
Two
Yeah, we did
episodes in one.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, this is only episode 4. I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, this is only episode 4 of The Lack of Us. And yeah, other thing, please let us know how you're feeling about The Lack of Us. The response has been great. Like Tatiana said, please tell your friends about us. I know there are not that many Black shows out there covering this, and it's just like with Game of Thrones. People are like, oh my God, I can't believe we just found y'all now. So don't keep us a secret, Let people know that the blackest Last of Us podcast is The Lack of Us.